Why do you think that it is not possible that such masters can exist even today, who are so exalted, are able to engender the transformation in the seekers?
If silence alone were so powerful and so potent, a glance would have sufficed and Arjun would have fallen in line. That didn't happen. Krishna actually struggled with Arjun through the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita.
So, Acharya, there have been many masters in the past, if I'm not sure, even Shri Kabir, who were able to impart knowledge, transformation, simply with their presence, their inner silence, their inner gyan. They did not really have to teach those wisdom texts. Yet you are not very appreciative of such masters in today's times. You even say that, if anybody says that please come to me and you will get the realization without having to read anything, then you must shun such people. Why do you think that it is not possible that such masters can exist even today, who are so exalted that mainly by this, through the silence, the state of silence is very powerful, or the stillness, if I should say so, are able to engender the transformation in the seekers or the followers?
I do not know whether Shri Krishna was not competent enough to use this method. The poor fellow had to actually speak a lot, 700 verses in total, to bring this reluctant disciple to have some sense. If silence alone were so powerful and so potent, a glance would have sufficed and Arjun would have fallen in line. That didn't happen. Krishna actually struggled with Arjun through the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Silence is another name for the pure self, the truth. Except that nothing can be called as silence. Kabira yah gat अटपटी चटपट लखी न जाए जब मन की खटपट मिटे अधर भया ठहराए. The first thing is the silence within. That alone deserves to be called as silence. Later on, you can have the external silence, whether in surroundings or in terms of your own physical silence. That is a later thing. Now, pure self, if only that is the name for silence, that pure self is not available to experience. That is the only problem. That pure self, by definition, has been called as achintya, aprameya. It cannot be thought of, it cannot be imagined, it cannot be heard. Nothing can be said about it. Nothing. Then how can the pure self be transmitted to a student? Via experience. The ones who first told of it made it very clear, were very categorical, that it is not available to be touched, to be seen, to be even imagined, to be conceptualized. It is not there, right? And except for that, nothing can be called as silence. If you and I sit here together and not utter a word for 2 hours, that is not silence. That is not silence. But if you and I are immersed in what is going on here, and what is going on here has the right intentions behind it, then we are silent even if we are continuously speaking. So when the ego is immersed in the pure self, Atma, the truth, that is a state of silence. And in that state, you can talk, you can walk, you can dance, you do whatever, you are still in silence. If I prefer to be a little loud-mouthed, let me brag that all this while I have been in silence. And if I have been honest throughout this conversation, and if my intention is to bring something valuable to the table, to you and to all those who would later listen to all this, then I have been continuously in silence, and that alone is silence. Silence of the external kind is just a worldly phenomena, and no phenomena can be called the real thing. It can be helpful, I understand. It can surely be helpful. For example, if somehow I lose my mind and become abusive, and you choose not to react, not to retaliate, you just sit there saying nothing, it is surely going to help, definitely. So this worldly silence, the silence of the throat and the lips, definitely has its use, but it cannot be called as the real thing. It's the real thing. So that's what there is. See, that's the reason why Vedanta is so important. If we have not been with Vedanta, we will not realize that Maun is the name and nature of Atma alone. Nothing else can be called as Maun. So, to your question, yes and no. Can teachings be delivered in silence? Obviously, yes. But is silence about keeping your lips sealed? No. If I am the teacher right now, assuming I am, let's say, I am delivering my teachings in silence, but that silence is behind all the words. If I just say nothing and sit here like this, how beneficial would be the teaching? So the silence is Atma, and Atma has to remain hidden. Remember, it is not available to the eyes to be seen and to the ears to be heard. It must remain as the pure background. It must remain as the mighty, strong foundation of the high rise, the high building of worlds and creations. Without it, the building won't rise. But even if the building is very high, the foundation is never going to be visible. Maun is the foundation. You cannot live in the foundation, you cannot touch the foundation. The building needs to be there. So let's not underestimate the building. And by the building, I mean the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is definitely teaching Arjuna in silence through the 700 verses. Krishna is definitely teaching Arjuna in silence through the 700 verses. All those 700 verses are manifestations of silence. Silence is exhibiting itself through those 700 verses. That is Maun.
Right.